Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Ashley Hicks, Joe Courtney, and Kyle Schrum. How's everyone doing today?
Not too bad.
Pretty
good.
Fantastic.
There we go. I was hoping Kyle would say something. Well, we have a lot to cover today. We are getting into a study on music and how it can maybe hurt your performance, maybe help your performance, maybe keep it the same. I don't know. You're going to have to listen to find out. And we're going to be talking about a very controversial book within the team. Only within the team. It's not controversial outside of this podcast, probably. It's called Fiber Fueled by Dr. Will Bolsewitz. And so we will talk about that book. And then we'll go over the workout for all of our athletes or anyone who wants to join. We are currently in week 1 of training at Garage Gym Athlete for the new cycle. So all athletes, that's where you're starting. We have the hard to kill track with the new sandbag and kettlebell variations. And if you want to get in, you want to get involved, do it. Go sign up for a 14-day free trial at garagegymathlete.com. For all our other athletes, just stay consistent. Do the damn workouts, all right? Get the green dots, and you're going to see a lot of results. But let's get into the science here. I don't think we're really cutting through any bro science today. It's more just like uncovering kind of the bro mentality. Like, is there any efficacy to what you're actually doing in the gym? So we're going to be talking about music. The name of the study is Effect of Pre-Exercise Music on Bench Press Power, Velocity, and Repetition Volume. This study was conducted in 2021 on 10 men with an average of 7 years of training experience and at a training frequency of at least 2 to 3 days per week. Here's my breakdown of what they did, just to make it simple. There are 3 sessions. Session 1, they maxed out. Session 2 or 3, it could have been either. I think they divvied it up, but they worked out without music, and then they worked out with music. All right, that was session 2, and then session 3. And the with music, a couple of things to note. They only listened to it during the warm-up or in between sets, and also the music was self-selected and had to be at a tempo of greater than 120 beats per minute. Now, I don't know how many beats per minute any of the songs that I listen to are, so I have no frame of reference for what that is. Ashley might be able to help us with that.
NF is probably, it just depends on the song.
Yeah. I mean, is that like really fast paced or is that like medium?
It's not over 120 beats a minute is getting into the faster. Yeah.
It's close to about most electronic is there. Dubstep seems to be around 140. So yeah, it's up there.
Okay. All right. So, and that's about it. That's all I'm going to cover for now. We could get into the results, but this was a very easy study. The takeaway is very easy. So we can just jump right into it. I'd love to hear your thoughts for pre-exercise music on performance.
One thing that I saw part of the study is that they had to have the song on loop, which would kind of suck after a while. Like, I used to be in the camp of like back when I did the bodybuilding stuff. It was basically each set I would change the song. I would have to listen to a new song almost every set. And it was just so into the music or dependent on the music. But now I've gotten to the point where I pretty much just listen to the same 2, maybe 3 playlists, and it's just kind of there. Also, just and I study, as you said, is simple. So like I've already kind of done this where I'll listen to music during rest and not during certain sets. And whenever I like video myself on my phone or like going for a PR, and one part of the thing on the study was they weren't sure if it would actually help you for PRs. It was just like a the sets
Reps.
they were doing were for reps on 75%. When I squat or do any kind of PR, I'm videoing it, my music is cut off because it's hooked up to my phone, but my phone is videoing, and when you're videoing, and you can't do music at the same time, so it obviously hasn't affected those because I just got a squat PR, and I've done PRs in the past with videoing without music. It's just while before I'm listening to my music, I think it's the takeaways is that like I'm dialed in between my sets, and the music kind of helps you get in your own zone. And then when you step up to the bar, as long as you're not like super easily distracted, I think it is beneficial. And this is just kind of one of those things that um, I guess it can help your either whether it's internal or external mindset toward on your set and phasing out everything else. And then when you get up to do your set, there you go. But
Sounds
that's
like
all I
you need
got.
2 phones.
Yeah, right. Well, if back when I had my garage gym, I could use my iPad because it was just right there.
That's what I do.
Not anymore. Yeah. Kyle?
So I said a long time ago on the podcast and have been reminding everyone ever since that Metallica increases gains,
Especially if you air guitar right before you step up to the bar.
which I do.
I'm gonna Google
And-
Metallica beats per minute real quick.
Do
Metallica
Alright, go
do
ahead.
look up "Fuel" by
It's
Metallica.
definitely
That
going to
one
be
is
up
in there.
up there.
Over 9,000.
So
Oh, one of
now
them's 220. Goodness.
I'm just so
Master of
happy
Puppets.
that the science
Yes.
actually backs me up on that. Metallica does increase gains. So there you go. I could just stop there, but I'll keep going.
They have a song called "Nothing Else Matters" that's beats per minute of 46. So
It's
Yeah,
because
that
it's a
one's not
slow ballad.
not that
That's-
one, I'm guessing.
that's not on the
Beats
workout
per minute
playlist.
does not matter.
All right, just
It is a phenomenal song though.
okay.
So that doesn't invalidate how good the song is, just not for training. So I would say, so they were talking about, well, the breakdown that we read as well was kind of talking about with powerlifting meets and things like that. And I remember the powerlifting meet that I did. They had music playing. It was all metal, all of it. There was nothing else that was played, and it was loud and all that. But during people's attempts, like they would turn the music down, and you also weren't allowed to like have your own earbuds in, listening to your own stuff and all that kind of. I mean, you could when you were waiting on your turn, but when you were up there doing your attempt, then it was just, you know, whatever was playing while they were changing weights out and stuff like that. And they kind of mentioned that as well. But I would say with training, if you're training for something specific and you're using music and all that kind of stuff, if you're training for like an event, if you're doing like a powerlifting event, or if you're going to be doing some kind of long endurance event and you're allowed to listen to music while you're doing endurance and all that kind of stuff, I would say don't switch things up on game day. So like don't switch up the music that you listen to. If you're listening to music during training and you're going to try to use it during your event, listen to the same music. Like don't try something new. And we kind of say that for anything, like with game day. Don't be trying like new foods. Don't be trying like new routines or things like that you haven't been training. So if you're going to be using this for, you know, for stuff like that, then I would say keep that. That's just something that popped in my head. Keep the music the same. My killing comfort recommendation here. Do we do that now or do we do that at the end?
Go for it.
Okay. I can save it to the end with everybody else's. That's what
I'm all ears. You've been wearing the
Okay.
Killing Comfort shirt, so
yeah. So I'm already in the mindset, I guess. I would say during your training, obviously not if you're doing an event or something, but during your training, I would say switch up the kind of music that you're listening to. Or no, that's not what I was going to say. You can do that, but I would say kind of do it the way that they did it in the study. So the way that I typically do music is I just have the music playing and it's just playing the whole time. But the way they did it in the study, they only did it during the warm-up sets and they only did it in between sets. So I would say if you're the kind of person who's just listening to the music all the time, I would say kind of get out of your comfort zone a little bit and actually go and turn it off when you're doing your working sets and only listen to it in between sets and see if that changes things up for you. Kind of mimic what they did in the study instead of just listening to it the entire time. Because I know when I'm listening to music during the training session, there's times when like my brain just kind of zones out and I don't hear it anymore. And so it's just kind of like it's not even on anyway. And so I don't know, just kind of be a little more intentional and focus a little bit more when you're actually getting up, getting ready to do your set. Like turn it off and actually be a little more intentional and focused on exactly what you're doing. I think I just kind of threw out our entire routine for the podcast during my thing. Yep. Sorry about that. Anyway, Ashley.
It's fine. I said the study or the science backs up my favorite tool for training, which is music, and I love it. And then it just, because of the warm-ups, it made me think of it. All of us have played sports, competitively or, in high school and stuff. And it made me think of my sophomore year for varsity soccer. Our coach was really awesome and was like, okay, you can pick what music you want to warm up to. It obviously can't have any language or anything on it. And like, so we all came up with this like list of hype music that we wanted to listen to. And, we always thought it was like the coolest thing ever to do our silly soccer warm-ups and sing along to whatever song it was. But I agree with you, Kyle, in the fact that like I've used this because for CrossFit competitions, sometimes they have like the loud music in the back, but you can't really like hear it because people are yelling and screaming and doing all sorts of stuff. So I've actually taken my headphones, like noise canceling headphones, and put on like a song that I know will get me pumped. Listen to it. And then right before it was time for me and my partner, because I never ever did anything individual, take my headphones off, go out and do the workout. And, I don't know if, it was a mixture of go, because it was a CrossFit competition, but also potentially even the music that helped. But I mean, it proved like that there was more reps, there was more velocity, more power output, like you name it. So my killing comfort, I guess, is if you are a no music kind of person, or let's say like, I don't care, like if you listen to a podcast or whatnot, then maybe try out music. Clearly it doesn't hurt you. And then just find something that you can tolerate. I know some people, have certain genres that they like better, and see what it does to your training and see if it makes your training better.
All right. Yeah. So takeaway, 9 out of the 10 lifters in the study performed more reps in the music condition. So I think that we kind of revealed the takeaway. The study found that listening to music during the warm-up in between sets improved bench press repetition performance, barbell velocity, and power and motivation to train in trained men. We have no evidence that this works in women at all, Ashley.
It works.
All right. Yeah, I think the study was really simple and the takeaway is very clear. And I think it doesn't really take a scientific study for people to realize whether or not music helps them. How I use music is similar to this condition. Like I'll listen to it during the lift as well, but I only get serious about the music I'm listening to if I am going for a PR or something that's going to take a little bit more mental focus. Otherwise, it's just funny to have this pointed out to me recently. I've mentioned my brother's training with me now. He came over in the first several sessions. I just had no music on and we were doing like really hard intervals one day. And he was like, do you mind if we just turn on some music? Cause I I literally just have a speaker sitting in my garage that's like easily used. And I was like, oh yeah, dude, you can literally play whatever you want. Like, I don't care. So now I am listening to music almost every time that I train, but it's not something I normally do in training, like training, but I will pick songs that I really like if I'm going for really hard intervals on the track, or if I use it a lot when lifting and things like that. And just so everyone knows, I Googled it. Electric powwow drum by a tribe called Red is 133 beats per minute. So
Do
it meets the threshold for
Which part?
when it gets good. I
Yeah.
will say you put on country during the time I came to do Murph with you.
This is
And
how much
that-
I don't care about music, because I'll just
Oh,
play
My
whatever.
goodness. I love country. There's a time and a place for country, but not during Murph. And so I had to go and grab my headphones.
That's why I asked my
Oh.
brother, I was like, what do you want to listen to? I'm like, I don't care at all. I like Texas country. If anyone
I do too.
out there
Not
is
for working out.
well, I just have to throw a disclaimer that it's only Texas country.
Not Tennessee
All-
country.
All other types of country I hate. So just so we're clear
Like the
on that.
commercialized.
Yeah, all other country I hate. If you don't know what Texas country is, that's fine. You're not in Texas. It's whatever. But I'll listen to that. I'll listen to some Taylor Swift. I'll listen to
Oh no.
Electric Powwow Drum by a Tribe Called Red. I'll listen to NF. I won't
Okay.
listen to Metallica. I
You
can't
Now that I
should.
think about it,
I don't know why I can't do heavy metal. I just I've never liked heavy metal ever in my whole life, and
It's okay. I can't do Taylor Swift.
yeah, I can do just about anything.
True.
If anything, I would probably gravitate more towards rap. If that would be like my Metallica.
I can dig that.
Kyle is to Metallica as Jerred is to rap. in general.
NF.
Yeah,
All right.
NF probably.
I'm good with that.
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
Used to be Eminem.
Eminem's so good occasionally.
When your kids aren't around.
Yeah, I mean that's a big reason NF works so well. It's because if the
Yep.
children are around, it's like, okay, I can keep listening to music. I guess I'll go with a Killing Comfort recommendation, and I'm going to kind of go both ways. I think there's a lot of benefit of training without music. So even though this is the opposite of the study, I would say try some hard things without music and listen to yourself chatter a little bit. If you are a person who kind of relies on music being streamed into your consciousness at every second of the training session, try some quiet training sessions. And then everyone else use it in a very dialed in approach. Kind of Kyle's recommendation for this is like, try to be methodical about how you're using the music in a training session. Joe mentioned there was some debate about whether or not this could help with 1 rep max performance. I think that it can as well. Every 1 rep max I've probably hit in a very similar fashion to what Joe mentioned. But the bigger picture here is if it's increasing your power, velocity, repetition, volume, all these things, you're going to get stronger. So maybe it doesn't help with your scientifically help with your 1 rep max in today's session, but using it in training will help with your 1 rep max over a longer period of time. So I don't see any downsides other than maybe headphone volume level damaging your hearing. So that's the only downside. So
Just get a
That's it.
speaker in
Yeah.
your garage.
well, they used headphones. So if you want to stay
I missed that.
scientific, got to use headphones.
Okay.
Joe, do you have a way that we can kill comfort with the
I
study?
guess I alluded to it earlier, and it's not something that I would even want to do. But I guess if you really want to do it, what they had to do, and that was listen to the same song on loop. So
Yes.
find your 120 beats song on loop, and then I'm sorry that you might hate that song. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. See,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Flower by Moby.
It won't be your song for very long. If no matter how much you love it, it just.
I don't know. I beg to differ on that.
Oh, okay. Wow, you got a song that you could just every minute.
Well, that's what I was saying. Just like you, I have like songs if I'm going for a PR. If it's a lift, I have certain songs that I go for.
But
and
yeah,
if-
you pull them out of the toolbox. It's not like,
But I could probably listen to them over and over again. There's a reason they're my songs.
oh wow.
Are we talking about listening to the same song on loop for every training session
Every
for
day?
an
Yeah,
entire cycle?
that's
I
what
was gonna say
talking
at least
about.
like one
Day,
like
yeah.
one
Yeah.
entire training session, not
Okay,
every
s-
day for an entire cycle.
That's ultimate killing comfort. Right
That's
there.
next level.
All right, I
But
have
the
a
same
challenge.
song on loop
That's
for
not
the
Then
whole
killing
we're
comfort,
right
training
at the
that's
start
killing
of
a
a new
song.
cycle. I'm gonna try it. One
Oh.
song. I'll let the community pick too. No, I
Oh
won't.
no, don't do that.
I won't do
Oh,
it.
here we go.
I won't do it.
Well, sorry.
All right, let's get to the book review. So the book is fiber fueled, as I mentioned towards the beginning, by Dr. Will Bulsiewicz. I practiced a lot on that name before I got
You're
here.
crushing it. You're doing
All
good.
further mentions of his name will be Dr. B, just so we're clear.
That's how he refers to himself.
Yeah,
in the book.
so might as well.
So the book uncovers how to transform your health by optimizing your gut microbiome. So just a quick, what is the book? And I'm just kind of reading the description here. This is not what I think of the book necessarily, but a bold new plant-based plan that challenges popular keto and paleo diets from an award-winning gastroenterologist. The benefits of restrictive diets like paleo and keto have been touted for more than a decade, but as we now have Dr. B, he'll illuminate in this groundbreaking book the explosion of studies on the microbiome and how it makes it abundantly clear that elimination diets are in fact hazardous to our health. What studies clearly now show and what Dr. B preaches with his patients is that gut health is the key to boosting our metabolism, balancing our hormones, and taming the inflammation that causes a host of diseases. And the scientifically proven way to fuel our guts is with dietary fiber from an abundant variety of colorful plants. And then my basic plot summary of the book, this is just what you guys could, whatever, is fix your gut, fix everything. Fiber is a major player. I feel like that's what he's trying to get across, just like most anyone else. So we'll get into our critiques and praise. So let's go with I don't know. Let's get some negativity out of the way. Let's go negative of the book from each team member. Kyle, what'd you think? Negatively
I'm
on the
going
book
first. Okay. Okay. Negatives of the book. It's going to be hard for me to do this without talking about the positives first.
We'll come back to positives.
I was prepared to go positive first and then go negative. But
You've got a long list of dislikes, so I feel like you can just go for it.
Well, it's going to be okay.
I'm going to put you on the clock too.
Okay,
we're a minute into your critiques right now.
All right. Yeah, and I haven't even said anything. Okay. Obviously, so this is it, in case it wasn't clear from what Jerred was talking about. This is all about a plant-based diet, being on a plant-based diet. So basically, the guy, Dr. B himself, is a vegan, so he's like 100% plant-based. He doesn't necessarily recommend that everybody go 100% plant-based, but I feel from the way that he wrote the book, it is pretty clear that he actually does think that he thinks that you should be 100% plant-based, even though he doesn't just outwardly say it.
This is the in between the lines.
It's in between the lines that there
Love
is
it.
Like, it was like a backhanded compliment when he talked about meat. That's how it felt every time.
Yeah. So
just his steak story. I mean,
oh my God.
So just to note, I agree with that critique. He was he doesn't come right out and say it, but then when he talks about meat in one portion of the book, he talks about whether or not you should have like the cleaner meats, the organic, grass-fed, all that stuff or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I guess you should. He's like, but that's asking me whether or not you should have chewing tobacco or smoking cigarettes. And I'm like, all right, dude, like you were unbiased. You were unbiased until that one statement, but I'll get into more, but yeah.
So because of that, to me, he kind of contradicted some of the quite a few of the things that we've covered recently, and just kind of my nutritional philosophy in general. And so I kind of refer to myself as like a nutritional agnostic. I'm not somebody who like sticks to one specific thing, and that's the one thing that's good for everybody. And I don't think that
sounds like you have one thing you don't do though, and that's vegan.
That's vegan. I don't do vegan, right? But anyway. I don't do vegan because it doesn't work for me, but I'm not saying that it doesn't work for other people. I'm not saying it doesn't work for other people. I'm saying that I don't want to. So
there you go. Let's be real.
Anyway,
let's be real.
It doesn't work for me because I don't want to, and I wouldn't be able to stick to it because I don't want to. So
yeah, not a functional work. It doesn't work out in your life.
Right.
Got it.
And I think that's a big piece of nutrition is I feel like you need to enjoy eating. And I think that's what a lot of like fad diets and a lot of just dieting in general, it makes people hate eating. And that's why they don't stick to it, is because they're having to eliminate things and they feel like they have to make a bunch of big changes all at once. And that's not true, but they do that. And then they wind up hating it. And so then they get off of it and they don't see results because they quit because they hate it. And so I just feel like that's anyway. So I just I'm always wary and kind of take it with a grain of salt when somebody clearly thinks that this is the one way that people should do something. And I don't believe that. I think that nutrition is individualized and should be individualized, and what works for one person may not work for another person. So that was kind of my biggest thing. Also, he mentioned in there that that eating this way, like it makes your fitness effortless. He wasn't really clear on what he meant by that. Like, but he used the words effortless fitness, and as he was like touting this way of eating, and I wasn't really clear on what he meant by that, but I just kind of felt that kind of threw up a red flag for me, because like I was like, I don't really know how fitness can be effortless, because like if it's
he
effortless,
means like you're gonna feel so good on the way that you eat that
Like
fitness
you'll
would
lose
just-
weight without working out if you clean your gut, kind of thing. Maybe
okay,
Well,
not actual
The
fitness.
fact that he uses fitness, to me means that more what Ashley is saying is that it will be like you'll have the energy, and so you'll want to do these things. Probably things that none of us struggle with, so we don't quite understand.
okay, all right, okay. Well, that explains it a little bit for me. So I think I've said enough. I'll pass the buck.
So overall critiques. Who's next, Kyle?
Let's go with Joe. Let's just go ahead and get
All right.
this stuff
So
out here.
to segue from what Kyle's what he was saying about that, he kind of lacked clarity on a lot of things. There were times where he either glossed over things and didn't say enough detail that I think he should have. One section in particular was when he's talking about whole grains, gluten, lactose, those three things. He just was kind of like, I partially see what he was coming from, saying that, you know, people have demonized these three things once they found that there's some bad parts to it. And he was kind of counteracting, saying, no, you know, there's still good parts to it. But then he was just like, yeah, you should introduce these into your life. And you're like, well, you got any more for me? Like what whole grains? How am I going to find the right ones? Beans. How am I going to cook or prepare the beans? His whole thing on lactose was confusing to me. He went like, milk is good, but it's also bad, and lactose has good things, but then you also shouldn't have dairy. And I was like, where the hell are we going with this, dude? So that was the one thing in particular.
I do think that I remember that part. What I concluded from that was that he was trying to be objective, not subjective about something like dairy. I think he was trying to talk about both sides of like, yeah, they found that some of it is good, but ultimately that we found a lot of it that is bad. But then he doesn't. The reason it gets confusing because he doesn't bring you to an ultimate conclusion. He just kind of is like, here's both sides, moving on, you know. And so
clarity on that was weird because he did try and do both sides of it, but I wasn't sure. I still not sure what he was actually trying to say. The whole grain part, I think that was the main one of that, is that you could kind of set people up for failure. And this goes back to our marketing terms discussion, and I looked them up for marketing terms. So for something to be deemed and branded whole grain, a food only needs to have 51% of their grains be whole grains. The rest can be refined, or 8 grams of whole grain per serving, or a lot of them, most don't even get enough, a lot of them still have more refined grains than whole grains and can still be branded whole grains because most people don't get enough whole grains. So their philosophy is some is better than none. And that's just one thing of like, if people read this and say, oh, I need to get whole grains, I'm going to go to the store and look for that branding of whole grains. But he doesn't actually clarify or say, you know, okay, when you're going to the store, go look for this. This is what you should be wanting with your whole grains. And then even in his little guide, like when his little color chart, it says whole grains. So that was one of them as well, leaving out some information. Beans and legumes, he just says, you know, hey, all these things, good things about legumes and beans. But when you tell somebody that, guess what? They're going to go to the store and buy the can of beans. They're not going to buy the dry beans and soak them like you should. They're not going to cook them in a pressure cooker. They're not going to actually cook them the right way. Soy, I won't even get into. I don't know if that might be Ashley's thing, but so that was a big one. Is those things that he mentioned? I think he needed to give more about it. Like I could see he has might have some good stances to it, but he just doesn't say enough. Whether he didn't look more into it or not, I'm not sure. Let's see. There was an example that he had from, and I just want to point this out. From remember the Tanzanian tribe example that he had. There was a indigenous tribe from Tanzania that eats all these vegetables and all these fibers, and they are super healthy. Do you remember the last book we had? They had a tribe from Tanzania who were predominantly meat eaters, the Maasai. Same country, same situation. They're cut off from Western cultures, completely meat diet. So it's just one of those cherry picking. I don't want to say cherry picking information, but it was just one of those examples where, because I mean, you could say the same thing for why we get sick. And this just kind of toots the horns of deep nutrition because of how she executed all of those things. But that's a whole different thing. So some of the examples, that was just an example of some of his examples were a little bit tailored to the point that he was making, which I guess could happen with a lot of books anyway. And then the final one that I'll just end on this one is toward the very end of the book. He was talking about how it was related to his steak story, and he goes through and he was saying how crappy his diet was before, and then he did all this plant stuff and he ate all this fiber, and then he went to the doctor and lost 40 pounds and was like, oh my God, I'm down to my college weight. I haven't weighed this much since college. And he said, all thanks to plants. And I was like, dude, you literally just said you were drinking 2 to 3 Red Bulls a day, eating at Jersey Mike's 2 to 3 times a week. You were super stressed and staying up late. That's not thanks to plants, man. Like, I know there's a big part of it that helped, but like you just boiled everything down to like, hey, plants are going to fix my life. And he might not have meant it that way, but this is just, after a while in this book, his jabs that he takes that we've kind of mentioned started adding up to me, and I just started getting a little bothered by more that he said. But these are just some of the things that if you hear it, I think are misleading. He came off as misleading in a nutshell as to a lot of things that he said and lacked some clarity. But now I'm going to turn it over to Ashley because I should stop.
Don't worry, people. We will get to the praise of the book.
Yes,
we're getting into the good parts. We're getting into the good parts.
Things. Okay.
So I don't really have too many negatives on the book. Because I think when you're reading kind of what we've all alluded to, when you're reading something like this, you have to take it with like, not this guy's one way is everyone's one way. And so what I like to do is read it and what can I take away from this? And then what can I try? But if I am going to critique a little bit, I will say he talks about gluten. And obviously a lot of people know I'm gluten-free, and he gave criteria of why you should go gluten-free. Now, if you have no issues with digesting gluten, and you are eating, sprouted bread or something that is, or like whole grains that, and again, sorry, Joe, I'm just using that term, but that is not processed and refined, then, and if you can process it, then it's fine. But he gave the criteria of if you only had celiac, and I forget what he had one more criteria, like there was only 2 different reasons why you should go gluten-free. But I would argue that there are potential other reasons why sometimes people go gluten-free, and it's doctor recommended, mine is functional recommended. Mine was from a holistic endocrinologist, and it clearly showed that it was causing inflammation with my thyroid. And so I did not agree with that. But it doesn't mean that I'm like, I guess it didn't really infuriate me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I guess that would be my one big takeaway from that. I kind of agree with Joe. I'm in the camp of like, he should have maybe dove into like, these are where you find your whole grain substances and what you should. He kind of talks about it. He talks about brown rice and quinoa and stuff like that. Like he talks about where that should come from when he
I
talks about
can
the grains.
guarantee if you asked him, he's not going to be like, yeah, the Lucky Charms that says it has whole grains in it.
For sure.
Yeah.
He just lacked clarity, but I guarantee he's not going that direction.
And
with
that's
it.
not where I think he should. But unfortunately, if you're reading this book and you have a diet like he does, what are you going to look for? You're going to look for stuff that is saying, whole grains and whatnot. Hopefully our listeners, especially talking about the marketing terms, are going to be a little smarter than that. But yeah, it can be a little bit misleading. Jerred, what are your critiques?
Very minimal. I had just similar to what Kyle said, a pretty hard vegan slant. He tried to hide it. This is going to turn into backhanded praise though, because I've read a lot of vegan books. I'm pretty interested in the vegan diet, not for something that I want to do, but there's not a more popular diet out there that has as much scientific research. So there's no way I can't be incredibly well educated on the vegan diet and work with athletes. Especially I think over the next 5 to 10 years, we might be encountering athletes with a lot of vegan preferences. And since I don't care about your preferences, I don't have a one way fits best. I want to know as much as I can about every area. So I feel like of the vegan books I've read, he did his best job to remain objective, but it's kind of like if you had a religious person who had a very clear religious stance and they tried to write an objective book, but you're going to see that it bleed behind the lines a little bit, that they have a specific belief in, a religion or a specific religion, even though they tried to remain objective. And I think that's I'm comparing veganism to a religion because that's how hard people can believe these things at times. But he ultimately probably believes that, being a vegan is the best thing for the planet. It's the best thing for your body. And he had a pretty hard vegan slant. But overall, his takeaway was try and be plant-based 90% of the time, 10% of the time, do whatever you want, which I think is really good. So that was my only critique. Pretty hard vegan slant, but overall, not near as bad as other vegan books that I have encountered. So let's get into some praise for the book. Right now, hopefully everyone's still listening, because if you ended there, you wouldn't read the book. And I absolutely love this book. So let's get into some of the praise for the book. We'll just go in the same order. Kyle, you have anything good to say about this book?
I do. Goodness. I have plenty good to say about the book. One of the things that I really enjoyed is he actually really focuses on eating whole foods. Like that's kind of, I know that he kind of used the same marketing terms that we've talked about and things like that. And again, I just like Joe, I do wish that he had kind of gone a little bit deeper on that. Just for people who this might be the only book that they read about it, and it would have been great to go a little bit deeper on clarifying what he meant by that. But if you read the entire book, it's pretty clear that he's talking about eating whole foods. He's not talking about eating Lucky Charms. He's not talking about he's not even talking about eating Wheaties, you know what I mean? Or anything. Like he's talking about eating whole foods. And so I do like that, because that's pretty much anytime we talk about nutrition on here, that's my takeaway. And I think that's just kind of our philosophy here at Garage Athlete, is you need to eat whole foods. And he also recommends a highly varied diet. He recommends eating a lot of different plants, a lot of different foods. You know what I mean? It needs to be varied. One of his chapters, I think, is called Eat the Rainbow or something like that, just talking about eating different colors, and making your plate colorful, because you have different kinds of plants on there. And so eating highly varied diet, plant-based, obviously, and then eating whole foods. I think I really like that. And I also like that he kind of paints it as a lifestyle, especially in the very end of the book. He paints it as a lifestyle, not as a diet. He's like, I'm not giving you a new diet. I'm giving you habitual changes to make, which is something else that we talk about on here a lot. It's not about you should be focused on making small changes over time. And he even specifically recommends that, of changing one small thing at a time, instead of just dumping everything and trying trying something completely different, do something small over time and just make those changes over time until you get to what he, as Jerred alluded to, what he recommends is his 90-10, 90% plant-based, 10% whatever you want. Make those small changes to get there, but make it a lifestyle. Don't just make it a diet. Don't think of it as a diet. Think of it as, this is just how I live. And this is what I do to have a fulfilled life and a vibrant life. And this is just the way that I think and the way that I eat, because it matches up with my lifestyle. So I did like those things about the book, is he's not giving you, and even at the end, like it's a 4-week plan that he gives you, you know what I mean? It's not like and it didn't even really seem like typical diet plans that you get. It was pretty much just change small things over time, and until you eventually get to this point where you're 90-10. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that about the book as well. Same order, Joe.
So first I'll start off with, I guess, a little context. This isn't good or bad. And it's just the fact that, we go over all of these different nutrition books. They're always going to have their scope and their lens of what they're directly aimed toward. And this one is gut health. So in the past 2 months, we've done other ones that have directed other things, and there's always good takeaways for them all. So gut health, 100% to a gastroenterologist, and gut health is so awesome and underrepresented, and things that we try and talk about. And there's not a lot of science to go over, like whether it's us looking at studies or books, just because it's still fairly new. I've only read one other book geared toward gut health. I think it was called The Microbiome Solution, and it was also really good and but a really science heavy. So this is a really good, easily digestible book on improving your gut health. And I've tried to help.
No pun intended.
I know, right? It's always happens. I've tried to help a lot of family members of like, hey, you really need to clean up your gut, and you really need to do all these things, but it's hard to kind of convey and take the easiest steps of what to do. It's like normally it's eliminating things, tell them to eliminate stuff and eat clean, but this has really easy practical application. If you just take like the cliff notes of this and like his page of the Eat the Rainbow and get all these vegetables in, is fantastic, easy advice. And how he, like Kyle said, how he puts it to, you need to make these changes for long periods of time, and it's just really easy to get all it in. So a lot of his vegetables, yeah, we've already been eating a long time, so it's good to see that. And it took us several books, a long time to put the diet in that list I eat, and it's all basically in this one. So like in my scramble that I've talked about before, for the last like 3 years, I've had Brussels sprouts and 3 other kinds of vegetables in it. But it if didn't come as clear, I guess, is that like this book right here, or his examples of what you should eat and how you should plan out your day. The fact that give yourself 1 point for each different vegetable you have for each day, and have these points add up to a certain amount for a certain period of time, is just a great guidance and great advice, especially to the people out there that might meal prep. And when they meal prep every week, they're making the same 1 or 2 vegetables and the same piece of chicken. And it's like, yep, I'm eating the same thing every day for lunch for 5 months, 5 years, because I know the macros of it and I'm fine. But that's not any diversity. So this is an easy and good way to incorporate those. And he does have a couple of decent, as he's going through his examples and stories, have good like caveats going along. I didn't write all of them now because most of the time I'm just listening, but a lot of his caveats to all of his examples were good as well. Now I'm going to go over to Ashley.
So I'm in the camp of, I love this book. I think it's great. I mean, the fact that it got our team to even talk about it for the last 3 days on our group chat. I mean, it clearly has got us thinking, and obviously there was positives and negatives to it, but I think that's the whole point. Like, we needed to focus on fiber and what Joe was talking about and how that affects our gut. I love the way he explains what microbes are and bacteria. And bacteria is not necessarily a negative thing. I think when people hear the word bacteria, they think it's a bad thing. And he describes like what happens when your bacteria is, you know, in sync versus in whack. And then what that does to you and how that even affects your body, like even your brain, like brain fog and all sorts of issues that you have can relate to your gut. And then I agree with Joe and Kyle, the variety that he talks about. He gives you F goals at the very end. I love that he talks about that it is a growth mindset, that you, again, have to start slow. And he talks low and slow is what he said. He's not expecting you to just dive right in. So kind of what Joe was saying, you know, just take something that you don't normally eat. Like me, I was like, broccoli sprouts? What are broccoli sprouts? You know, and he talked about that, you know. But yeah, or like last night, Jerred posted a picture of him eating beets. I'm like, man, when's the last time I've eaten some beets? Like how, and you just need to, what Joe said, like kind of get out of the box and, you know, try something new, whether that be the vegetables or just variety within your meals. So my takeaways, I guess, from this are for our garage gym athletes listening is maybe not, I'm not saying go vegan, but maybe focus on the vegetables and like your servings of vegetables that you get. So for me, I have a functional nutritionist, and one of my goals is getting 2 servings of vegetables per meal per day. So that's 6 total servings of vegetables. And then kind of plan your meals around that, you know, then add your, you know, meat that is not processed, your whole grains, whether that be rice, quinoa, potatoes. And that's the other thing I loved. He talked about like, we always put these things in these camps, good food, bad food. And it's like, he's trying to eliminate that. Like, we need to get out of this mindset. Like, it's not just good and bad, you know, different foods do different things to your body. Yeah, I could talk a whole lot more about this book, but just for time's sake, I'll let Jerred go next.
Oh yeah. So overall, I think he did a phenomenal job. I kind of mentioned this to you guys, and I'll just say it on the podcast. Like Emily and I have picked up a lot of gut health tactics and strategies over the years, but it's been like here and there, and he hit on like every single one of them in the book. And so, yes, gut health is insanely important. So I think everyone should read this book for that reason alone. There's not a lot of information. I think he mentioned some sort of stat about like how 80% of the research has been done in the last couple of years. Like, you know, of all the studies that exist on gut health have been done in the last couple of years prior to the 60 years before that, you know, on the first published study. And so we're learning a lot about gut health and how important it really is. And I think that this is only going to explode even more over the next couple of years. So getting your gut health in check is a major deal for athletes. And I've never, like, to be honest, I didn't know jack about fiber. Like the only information in my brain about fiber was how it may not have as much of an insulin response and like net carbohydrates and things like just like real base level information on fiber. So I've never had a deep dive on fiber before, and how beneficial it can be to your overall health. And so I think it's just a really, really solid book. And I just kind of want to talk about how I'm processing nutritional information these days, because I think we've all heard that saying, like, if all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail, something like that. It's called the law of the instrument. And it's a cognitive bias that involves like an over reliance on a familiar term. So Bickman, he studies insulin. His book is about insulin. Insulin is the key. Sugar Crush, the dude amputates people's feet because they had diabetes. Obviously, his answer is get rid of sugar. You know, this guy, he's a gastroenterologist. Gut is the answer. And I'm not saying he's wrong, but that's obviously what he's going to do. Kate Shanahan, oils, inflammation are killing you. Oils are the thing. Everyone has their one thing, right? And so what I'm really trying to look at, if we're just talking about like Venn diagrams, I'm only paying attention to the intersection of what all these people are saying. I don't really care what anyone is saying. I only care about the intersection of what everyone is saying. And so this is where the Venn diagrams start to overlap. And where the Venn diagrams are overlapping for me from everything that I'm reading, fruits and vegetables. Not a lot of debate there unless you're carnivore. Carnivore people are making ridiculous arguments that there are chemicals in plants that are killing us. I just can't get on board. Maybe I'll be proven wrong one day in 150 years after I'm dead. But right now, I don't think that'll happen. Fruits and vegetables. 1, 2, fasting. For some reason, everyone in almost every camp is starting to agree with fasting to some degree. Not aggressive fasting, but like just a digestive break at a minimum. Almost every book is starting to agree with that. Gut health. I think in every circle, everyone is saying that that's okay. Refined oils, bad oils, that's kind of in there from like Kate Shanahan, where that was her main thing. But I feel like everyone's starting to agree with that. And then the one that everyone agrees with is anything not in moderation, in excess. Well, like if it's in excess, it's probably bad. And it doesn't really matter what it is. Like, yeah, carrots are good. 100 carrots a day, probably bad. 2,000 calories for you, probably fine. 5,000 calories for you, probably not good. These are the things, the 5 that I came up with, having read a lot of nutrition books. That's where things are starting to intersect for me. And I'm okay with all of those things. And I'm dairy free. So I'm probably vegan like 3 or 4 times out of the month. And I don't even realize it, because when you eliminate dairy, you're danger close to vegan. Like, it's like if you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, and the only thing that I kind of just like lost interest in eggs. Like, I'm just not eating a lot of eggs. So the only animal source I really have now is meat. So if I have like a meatless dinner or something like that, or it just didn't pop up, like I'm vegan that day on accident. That doesn't happen to most people. But yeah, that's why I'm not like so anti-vegan, just because I feel like I'm so damn close to it anyway, other than like 1 serving of meat probably a day, maybe 2, depending on the day. And so I don't think it's necessarily a bad approach. And a thought-provoking question I had with Emily after we went through this book was, if we had to pick one diet for the rest of our lives, and the options are ridiculously hardcore strict in ketosis keto or vegan, which one would we pick? And we both would pick vegan over keto any day of the week, because I think keto is that's about as extreme as you can get, right? And so is vegan. If you were to choose between paleo and vegan, it's not easy for me, because I think that paleo does some stuff incorrectly. And there's so many like variations of paleo now. Like there's, oh, well, those grains are okay because we were wrong in the first place. And dairy is actually okay if it's fermented because we were wrong in the first place. Like, I don't like the whole direction paleo's gone. It's too convoluted. I feel like the diet's almost lost my respect, even though a lot of the principles I agree with, of like, let's eat fruits and vegetables, clean meats, and these things. But some of the things that they wanted to exclude at the beginning, maybe they shouldn't anymore. It's kind of like if CrossFit tries to backpedal on high intensity one day. Yeah, you shouldn't be doing that every day. It's like, well, okay, that's literally the definition of what you do, but that's fine. So anyway, yeah, I think it's a great book. Let's get into our rating, where we can jump into the workout. So on a 1 to 5 barbell rating, fractional plates allowed, Kyle, where'd you end up with this book?
I'm gonna give it 3.5 barbells.
All right.
Just because I think there are some things in it that were like I talked about, just the kind of hard vegan slant, and I just stay away from anything that's like trying to tell me this is the one way, and that was in there a little bit, and it contradicted some other things. But I do think the overall premise is good, and people should listen and pay attention and implement. Listen, pay attention, and implement. You do need to eat your veggies, so go out there and do it.
Joe.
4 out of 5 for me. One of the things that I thought of as Ashley was talking, and that was another section that I thought was really awesome, and also goes in line with the marketing terms that I talked about, was the pre, pro, and postbiotic section, because probiotic is like the hot topic word or hot word that's going on everything, but most of that stuff isn't going to work anyway. So that was a really good section as well. 4 out of 5. Gut health is fantastic to get right. Just, kind of sift through some of his jabs and clarity issues.
Ashley.
I'm gonna go 4.25 then, since you did 4 out of 5.
That just makes it worse.
I love my fractional plates. No, it was a really great book, and I think great takeaways overall. And like we said, really simple but not easy to implement, I guess. Lots of simple ways to do it and take variety. But yeah, Jerred, what's yours?
I'm gonna give 5 barbells. Bring it in strong.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think I don't really care so much about the jabs. That doesn't offend me personally. And here's my take on like the individualized nutrition. We take that stance as a company, and that's what we believe. Like you should individualize your nutrition. But I'm hoping that there's a day where there is a right answer to what you should be doing. And I'm not saying that will be vegan, but I would love for them to continue to do research and find out, yes, it's okay to eat fish and a lot of fruits and vegetables, and there are a lot of studies backing up that exact statement, things like that. But I'd love to keep diving down that road. The only thing I know for a fact is what my diet looks like today will change, and my opinions on nutrition will continue to change. And I won't have I do this because I've always done it mentality ever. If we find something out, like we were having these discussions about meat, like processed meat, there's nothing promising about processed meat coming out, like at all, period. So if you're like, you want to go crush some sausage and bacon or whatever, that's fine. Like, keep doing it. Try and buy the healthiest version of that thing you can, but still, it's not, the science is not leaning in your direction. So you're making that choice because you just enjoy it and it's comfortable for you. And so you have to start making some hard choices in nutrition. And a lot of these things will keep popping up, and you have to get the perspectives from everywhere. You can't get the perspectives from a paleo guy. You can't get the perspectives from a vegan guy. You have to get it from everywhere, and you'll land somewhere in these intersection points about what's probably okay, but we're not going to know for sure. So that rounds us out at an average of 4.2 for the team, which is pretty good. And we'll get into the workout. Kyle.
Broken arrow. So the buy-in with a vest, if you have it, it's 150 squats, 100 push-ups, 50 strict pull-ups. There is no partitioning in the buy-in. You have to do it in that order. Then after you do the buy-in, you're going to bike for 10 miles. You're going to run for 3 miles, and you're going to do 1,000 double unders. After that, you're going to cash out, no vest on the cash out, and you're going to just repeat it, the 150 squats, the 100 push-ups, and the 50 pull-ups. And again, no partitioning. Kipping is allowed on the cash out pull-ups, not on the buy-in pull-ups. And we have scaling available as well for established athletes. But I believe the recommendation here is that no vest if you're established to recruit level, vest only for competitors. And we have scaling available. And if you do not have a bike, you can row. If you do not have a bike or a rower, you will double the run distance, no matter which one you're doing.
If you don't want to run, don't do the workout.
If you don't want to run or can't run, don't do the workout. Do a different workout. That's our official recommendation.
40 minutes of burpees.
Yeah.
40 minutes of burpees. Okay, no. Anyway, all right. That's it.
All right. Tips and tricks. I'm going with a challenge this time, just so.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
My tip is don't die. And based on our study from today, Metallica.
Whoa.
Oh, man.
Metallica.
I don't think you can do Metallica for 90 minutes to 2 hours.
I absolutely could.
Yeah, I was like, you definitely could.
For me,
isn't
not
that
a
like
challenge.
How long one of their songs is?
For me,
I was gonna say.
Not a challenge. For other people, maybe a challenge.
One is one of their longest songs, but
like 3 songs, hour and a half later.
Ashley.
Yeah, every time I think of this workout, I absolutely love We Were Soldiers, and it just makes me think of when he just announces Broken Arrow, and it stinks. So I'm not gonna lie, and I love hard workouts, but this one stinks. I had to do it on the rower because I don't have a bike. I still don't have a bike, so maybe that's what I need to do. But I said, listen to something that just keeps you moving. Just keep moving, even if it's at a slower pace. Just try and get and finish this one. It's a longer one. So take that into account, and please warm up beforehand. Sweet Moses, warm up beforehand. Okay, that's my tip. Joe.
You're going to need to stay in like the upper zone 3 for most of it or low zone 4. because I mean you're going to be doing this for 90 plus minutes if you're depending on what your version is, and don't be afraid to scale as well because you're going to be going on 2+ hours or something. So it doesn't hurt to scale at all, whether it's one of the movements or the double unders or whatever. So yeah, this is a pacing workout, which probably why I don't mind it as much. Although when we did half broken arrow on Murph Burner, I think that was the hardest day. It was also ungodly hot here, so that was just also bad. But pace 100%, and honestly, you might need some fuel during.
Mm-hmm.
So if you normally work out fasted, you're probably going to need a little fuel up either right before or during, like after you get back from that run or something. Get a little, just a little quick carb or something into you, whatever you have. Don't just like have a snack, but yeah, those are my recommendations because you're probably going to be depleted and crashed, and yeah.
Sweet potato. Eat a sweet potato in the middle.
Or drink some OJ.
Yeah.
Well, are we against juice? I'm sorry. It's been demonized in the last couple of books.
Sugar.
I am against juice. Do you want to talk about it? No.
No, because I'll still drink orange juice, but not like very much.
Oh, all right.
Dr. B is against juice as well, by the way.
I am against juice. I'm not kidding. But
yeah,
it's whatever.
Dr. B is too.
We don't have to go there. Challenge for this one. Joe actually kind of stole my challenge unknowingly. So I'll go with two challenges. One, try and stay in zone 3 the entire workout. Like we have zone 2 challenges or workouts. This one, I want you to try and stay in zone 3 the entire time. In this one, I would be able to go to zone 4 and hold it for a very long time. But I don't want to do that. I don't, that maybe a portion of it, maybe towards the end, use your zone 4 powers or zone 5 powers to finish it up. But just see what zone 3 feels like as you're going through the workout, and you might feel that that's a good pace. And that's I'm trying to introduce people to their race pace of zone 3, which Meet Yourself Saturday really is more of a testing day, a Meet Yourself day. So if you want to bring it to that zone 4 or zone 5 towards the end, do it, but just don't start there. Like don't be there in the middle of the workout. And then my challenge for, if you've done this workout before, bump it up a level. So if you did it recruit last time, go to established. If you did established last time, go to competitor, and just time cap yourself where you feel appropriate. And tip is go back in time 8 weeks and start doing a lot of double unders, so your calves aren't fried. But
that's what I was gonna say. Is like, how do you stay in zone 3 with double unders?
It's peaks and valleys.
Yeah, you just do like 10 at a time, or whatever won't spike your heart rate too high.
Take me an hour to do 1,000 double unders if I do 10 at a time and then stop.
Yeah. Meet yourself though, wouldn't you?
I mean, even like
which is the point.
Even doing them in sets of hundreds take like 12 minutes or so.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to move on. We're not going to do any updates today. We're going to round out this episode. Go grab the book, listen to some music,
grab some cabbage.
Yeah.
Eat some veggies.
Eat some sauerkraut,
fermentation.
It's all the good things, but we are at the start of a new training cycle. So if you are not one of our athletes, go fix the problem. GarageGymAthlete.com, sign up for a free trial and start with us. It's becoming easier and easier to do our training. We have no gear. You don't need a single piece of equipment. You can do our no gear track. Hard to Kill now has kettlebell and sandbag only variations. So if you only have a kettlebell or you only have a sandbag, you can now participate in one of our most popular and effective tracks. We also have strength, women's health track, endure, shred, a lot of options to do awesome and have a lot of fun this cycle. You can join Kyle on Concurrent Training Elite. If you want to get some coaching with him, you can do that. So all good things, join up. And for all of our athletes who've been around, I'm going to say it again, stay consistent and you will see the results. And thank you for everyone making the community as awesome as you have. Then my weekly reminder, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you. Get after it. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to GarageGymAthlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.